Hi, science teachers. Welcome to Real Science Challenge. I'm Kent Louie, teaching science and broadcasting from beautiful Vancouver, Canada. What do you want to have accomplished by the end of your 20 or 30-year teaching career? For me, I hope to have taught 30 good years and not just the same year 30 times over. That's why I like to keep my practice fresh. Today is another episode of EdLab, where I share something I'm trying with my students to help them learn science more effectively. Today I'm talking about ASL, or American Sign Language, and using it with my students as an active and thoughtful way to better understand abstract science ideas. This episode, I'll talk about how I use ASL one way in my classroom, and I'll share another way I've used it in a follow-up episode. In general, I find that using ASL is a fun way to get my students thinking and talking. Now, if you've done this with your class before, please let me know how you did it in the comments section below. Handouts for this episode can be found at realsciencechallenge.com EP15 and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So here's the big idea. I want my students, to practice analyzing and processing information, specifically science vocabulary, which can be packed with abstract meaning, and it can be a real challenge to remember, especially when it comes to concepts that are not visual, they can't be seen easily, like the atom or mitosis. Recently, I'm trying to use American Sign Language to accomplish this goal. Like all languages, ASL has its own rules and conventions. And like the words we use to convey complex ideas, ASL needs to do the same thing through gestures, which is amazing to me because just a few gestures can potentially represent many levels of complexity. So with my students, I'm starting to introduce the science concepts along with the ASL signs. Now this is so students can first hear and read the definition, then they can see and do the actions in ASL, and then finally process and analyze the word's meaning and whether its representation in ASL makes sense. Let me show you some signs from the Rochester Institute of Technology website. This is courtesy of the NTID Science Signs Lexicon project. Now this is the sign for mitosis. Now in the classroom, I'd read and go over what mitosis is, perhaps show them some pictures, show the students some pictures, and then I'd show them this, the ASL sign. And then I'd ask, well, is the sign complete? Does it make sense? And what can we add to the sign to perhaps provide more information to the person seeing it? Similarly, this is the sign for meiosis. Again, pretty cool. Again, I'd go over what meiosis is with the students, perhaps read the definition, show them the sign, and then ask, well, is that a fair representation or complete representation of meiosis? And if not, or regardless of whether or not it is or not, what can we add to the sign to perhaps give it more meaning? Consider the atom. There are actually two variations of the word atom. Here's the first one. And here's the second variation of the atom. And that's interesting to me, because which sign is complete? Which sign conveys the idea of an atom better? And what can we add to either sign to hopefully improve its meaning? In my most recent chemistry lesson, my students were expected to learn the 6 general types of chemical reactions. Synthesis, decomposition, single-double replacement reactions, combustion, and neutralization. And I showed them the signs for synthesis and decomposition. Synthesis goes like this. Decomposition like this. And I show them this so that students can hopefully better remember what synthesis is like, which is two objects coming together to make one object, and what decomposition is like. One object breaks apart into smaller objects. And hopefully it kind of helped them remember those concepts a little better, and a little faster. And we also, of course, talked about whether or not those signs were complete and what we can add to those signs as well. That's it for this episode. I hope you try ASL with your students. I think they'll actually like it a lot. Thanks for watching. And remember, the signs everywhere, every day.